Hi guys, my name's Sami from Pioneer DJ, and today I'm at Leisuretec to give a product profile on our brand new flagship multiplayer, the CDJ-3000. The first thing we're going to do is look at the visual changes to the unit. I'm going to start at the top and look at our new 9-inch screen. This is a touch responsive, high definition screen with a resolution of 1280 by 720. This is the most precise and clearest screen we have ever had on a product to date. I'm now going to move into our hot cues that have been redesigned and repositioned. We've now given you 8 hot cues where previously on the CDJ-3000 Nexus 2 there was only 4 with a second bank. This is laid out in a linear fashion, which definitely makes it a more usable feature. Being located just above the jog wheel and below the screen, this makes this almost an extension of our screen, allowing you to see the full waveform across the bottom, and each hot cue can pair up to a section within the track. Moving down from our hot cues, we're now going to look at our new redesign of our jog wheel. Since the famous jog wheel on the CDJ-3000, we have consistently delivered tactile connection to your music where possible. Our newly designed mechanism inside the jog wheel makes it feel smoother than any jog we have ever made. Our cue and play, our new hardware and components, vigorous testing took place and resulted in over 1 million pushes without any failure. And lastly, on the visual changes, we now have an aluminium faceplate, giving it a premium feel. Before we jump into the unit itself with a USB, I just want to highlight the key features on the back of the unit. So we have upgraded our Ethernet port to gigabit speed. This means we can connect 6 CDJ-3000s with our DJM V10 in our Pro DJ link at one time. On our CDJ-3000 Nexus 2, the max players we can connect in Pro DJ Link is 4. Like our DJM V10, we now have a V-Lock power cable, which means you're going to have no accidental pullouts when you're playing live. The CDJ is also shipped with a high quality coaxial digital cable, as well as our analog RCA cables. This moves us on nicely to looking at the sound quality of the CDJ-3000. Again, another area where Pioneer DJ always excels. We have the DJM V10, which is currently the best sounding mixer on the market. We've now introduced a CDJ-3000 that matches that quality. The components used for the audio have been changed, from metal oxide resistance to metal film resistance. Alongside this, we've been able to reduce digital noise from our power supply, LCDs and LEDs. The player also converts all playable audio files up to 96 kHz and 32-bit, whilst internally processing at 32-bit float, making the CDJ-3000 the best sounding multiplayer we have ever built. It's important to highlight what we've got going on under the hood. The CDJ-3000 is our first MPU-driven unit. The MPU, multi-core processor, is the driving force of the player, which features 2 types of multi-core CPU. Dual core ARM Cortex A57 at 1.5 GHz. The second being quad core ARM Cortex A53 at 1.2 GHz. This industrial-grade MPU was selected specifically to deliver unprecedented performance. This allows our brand new features to be realized, such as lightning-fast load times of tracks and hot cues, high-quality key shift and key sync, touch preview and touch cue at 96K playback. These heavy processes can be performed in parallel, making the CDJ-3000 the most powerful multiplayer on the market. When I place my USB stick inside the CDJ-3000, the source button will flash, indicating media is available. Instantly, you can see the difference and the high quality screen resolution that we have on the CDJ-3000. Within the source screen, we get the available media on the left, and on the right hand side, we get a breakdown of the USB, showing you songs, playlist, date, total space, available space, and your background color that's easily changeable. And the most important thing, we can load my settings straight from the source page. I'm now going to move over to the browse page by tapping the media that I'd like to be selected. And here you're going to see huge improvements from our CDJ-3000 Nexus 2. Another great thing is we can now see 10 lines of information. On the left-hand side, we have our categories that you can change within your rekordbox preferences. The browse section looks very familiar to our rekordbox export mode. Essentially, this has given a DJ almost laptop style experience. Another new feature within the screen is being able to adjust your text size. We can now have 3 different settings for our font size. The smallest that I have it on now gives you 2 more extra lines of information, allowing you to see 12 lines. Going up 1 more, I lose a line, but the text becomes a little bit bigger. And the third option makes it a lot more easier to read if you struggle to read small text. Using the category section on the left-hand side of the screen, I'm now going to jump into playlists. From here, I can see the playlist that I've made in rekordbox. I can also see what's in each playlist. The great thing about the 3000, I can use my finger to scroll through the playlist. And once I find a track that I like, I can then press it and then it will load straight into that track, saving time where you'd have to re-scroll through the playlist to find the track that you actually selected. As you can see, there's been major improvements made to our playlist page, keeping the overall experience in line with our rekordbox software. On the left-hand side, we get a preview of the waveform that we can toggle on and off. To the right of that, we have artwork, track number, track, BPM, and key. The workflow allows you to arrange your tracks by pressing the sort icon on top of each list. So if I'd like to sort these now into key, I press the key icon, and I've now arranged that playlist into key. Super quick and super easy. Within the playlist view, we're also able to add an extra column. By using these 2 arrows, we're able to specify a different column that we'd like to add to our playlist view. Within rekordbox, you can specify what options you would like to have on this drop down, but I like to use things like rating, comments, color, time, date added. These are all great, useful bits of information that you can add to the playlist view. Whilst looking at this playlist view, as you can see, we still have the category area on the left-hand side. We can eliminate this, allowing us to utilize more space in the screen. We do this by using our hardware playlist shortcut button that's located at the top of the unit. When I jump into this playlist now, I can now utilize the full width of the screen. We have now added a hardware shortcut to search. Previously, you'd have to hold down the menu button to get to the search area of the CDJ-3000. Now, with the touch of 1 button, I'm able to jump into my search screen. It allows me to search keywords. When I start scrolling, my keyboard disappears, allowing me to see the extra lines where the keyboard normally takes up. And from here, I can arrange in key, BPM, and I've got my column and I can arrange in my tracks. Something that you couldn't do on the search page on the CDJ-3000 Nexus 2. Next to the playlist button, we have tag lists. So we've kept tag lists because we found this is a very popular feature on the CDJ-3000 Nexus 2. A lot of artists wanted us to keep this hardware button because they found they used it a lot on the fly. And I've started to do that also. So if I jump into a playlist, I can easily tag a few tracks. This is great for when I'm deviating from the set that I've planned and I'm thinking I want to play some of these tunes later because I know they're bangers. After I've tagged them, they are then set in my tag list. From here I can do a few things. I can arrange in key, BPM, add a subcolumn, and arranging track. Another great thing, if I think I'd really like to use this again in another set, I can now create this tag list into a playlist. I do this by pressing the menu button, create playlist, OK. Now, if I jump back into my playlist view, I can now see tag list 1 has been added as a playlist that I can now import back into my rekordbox once I'm back at home. Now let's load some music and really watch the CDJ-3000 come to life. The first thing you're going to notice when I load this track is the MPU kicking in. As you can see, I've loaded the track and we've got the full waveform straight away. All our hot cues and cue points loaded within a second. This shows the power of the new CDJ-3000, especially compared to our CDJ-3000 Nexus 2. After loading the track, you can see the on-jog display shows the artwork, and the source indicator on the LEDs on the top of the unit will turn red, indicating that my USB is loaded to this player. A brand new feature on the CDJ-3000 is our touch preview. Provided you're using a DJM-900 Nexus 2, a DJM V10 mixer in Pro DJ Link, you're able to use this super cool feature. When I'm playing live, there's so many times I've put tracks onto my USB and I'm not quite sure what happens later on in the track, or if I'm honest with you, sometimes I can't even remember what the track sounds like just from looking at the title. Previously on the CDJ-3000, I had to load the track in, cue it up in my headphones and then listen to the preview. Now, with this new feature, I'm able to preview the track on the fly. I do this by making sure my cue link is on, and with my headphones, I can scroll through. My finger can also latch, allowing me to be a lot more precise. I do this by placing my finger, moving it away, and then I'm able to move through the waveform to be a lot more precise of where I'd like to preview. Starting from the top, you can see we have the track title, time, BPM, key, and then the I for information. Below that, you're going to see our new and improved larger phase meter. We've gone from having a 40mm phase meter to 115mm. Below that, you're going to see the waveform that's 3 times bigger than the Nexus 2. We've gone from having a 10mm waveform to a 30mm waveform. The CDJ-3000 also supports our new 3-band waveform, which can be easily changed in the shortcut menu. When I press play on the track, you're going to see the beat grid counting down to the next memory point. We've also added a beat countdown grid located just at the bottom of the waveform. Depending on the zoom rate, this can change the value of the numbers. So at the minute, I'm zoomed all the way in and you can see up to 4 beats. If I zoom all the way out, I can see up to 128 beats. Really useful if you haven't prepared your tracks or you're not sure of the progression of the track going forward. On the top right of the screen, you can see beat loop, key shift, and beat jump, something that's been inherited from our XDJ range. First thing I'm going to jump into is beat jump. So this was previously on the CDJ-3000 Nexus 2. And we've kept that on here, but we've added a second page that goes up to 64 beats. We've also added a highly requested beat jump hardware button. Now this might be one of my most favorite features of the CDJ-3000. Since using this, I seem to use this beat jump a lot more than I thought I would, and for many different reasons. Like I said, really cool feature if you want to skip forward, say, 64 beats at a touch of one button. Moving on from beat jump, let's look at beat loop. Previously on the CDJ-3000 Nexus 2, we only had a 4-beat loop, so it's great to see the 8-beat loop being implemented on the new CDJ. On the CDJ-3000, we have added an extra hardware button, which allows you to jump straight into an 8-beat loop. I can use these buttons to decrease or increase the size of my loop. I can use the 8-beat to double my loop and the 4 to half it. I can also still use my cue call to do the exact same thing. Previously on the 2000 Nexus 2, it would take away half the waveform. On the 3000, we just make the waveform slightly bigger, but keeping the full waveform there for you to view on the screen. I still have the beat loop located on the top right hand side of the screen, but now we have a second page, which gives you the offbeats. We can use this page to create polyrhythm loops whilst playing live. The CDJ can also remember what state the last page was in that you left. So if we jump into a 8-beat loop, and then we change that to the value of 32, when I jump out of this, the CDJ leaves two indications for me. Firstly, when I recall the loop, where it's going to be placed, and secondly, the value of the loop that's located just below the waveform. When I jump back into the loop, it also stays on the second page, which makes it really easy for me to jump back in and be creative on the fly. This next feature really highlights how the CDJ-3000 has evolved. This is the first Pioneer DJ player to feature key sync and key shift. This allows us to take our harmonic mixing to the next creative level. The key sync and key shift is featured in two different ways. We have the hardware button and then the software. The great thing about the CDJ-3000, with the master tempo turned off, I can now see from the bottom right hand side of the screen what key I'm jumping into when I'm changing the pitch of my track. For example, I'm a drum and bass DJ and a lot of tracks come in at 174, 175. I actually play my music at 180 BPM. When I do this, I'm actually changing the key of the track. Previously on the CDJ-3000 Nexus 2, I never knew which key I was going into. Now, the beautiful thing about the 3000, it shows me what key I'm moving into depending on where I've got my pitch fader. Key sync will shift a key of the secondary player so it works harmonically with the master deck. This will put them harmonically in sync. When using key sync, this function only has to shift up or down by 2 semitones to get the harmonic match. A special algorithm has gone into the CDJ-3000 to achieve this, alongside the high quality audio and the MPU that's driving the system. Let's go in and see how key sync actually sounds and works. Now I'm going to jump over to the second CDJ, where you can see we have my USB that is loaded in the source. When I press this, super fast loading onto the next page, I'm going to jump into my playlist and down to a track that I want to play. I actually remember the track by name. I can't find it here, so I'm going to jump into the search and then start typing it in. And there we go, straight away. As you can see, as I've loaded that track, I've used all the banks of hot cues and it loaded in super fast timing. This again shows the power of the MPU of the CDJ-3000. Let's go in and check out the key sync. So the track I'm about to bring in is out of key and I've got key sync turned off. Now, when I press key sync, you're going to see the CDJ-3000 work its magic. You might not be able to hear the key sync, the key shift actually, but I can assure you we are now harmonically in sync. Off, on. Key shift turned off. Key shift turned on. Now we're going to jump into the software key shift. For this, I'm going to bring up another track with a bit of a vocal and show you how you can use this in a performance way. When using a software key sync, we have 3 buttons that are really easy to use. The middle is our reset button and the key that the track is in. The plus to the right lets us increase by a semitone each time. and the minus allows us to decrease in semitone each time. Let me just quickly give you an example. What I was able to do then, I was able to shift up and down by semitones to create like a kind of build up before I started the track. This can be used in many different ways and definitely a feature that I'm going to start using more live. I don't just have the key sync and key shift to start harmonically mixing. This is also indicated within the players itself, following the key of the master deck. For example, when I jump into a playlist, as you can see, I have green highlights that are very clear, showing you that all these tracks are going to harmonically mix with the track that is placed in the master deck, allowing me to take my harmonic mixing to the next level. Due to revised algorithm and the high sound quality of the CDJ-3000, this is the best time stretching that we've been able to achieve on any unit. For all those DJs that play on our CDJ range and bring a laptop to their gig, we've now offered a feature that might potentially move you away from your laptop. On the CDJ-3000, we now have stacked waveform. By pressing the phase meter, it allows me to toggle onto the second option, which is our stacked waveform. By using my rotary pot, I can zoom out, allowing me to see a lot more of the track. I can also see where my cue points and hot cue points are from the master deck. On our performance page, we've also implemented something very similar to our touch preview called touch cue. And what this allows me to do is preview what's going on later on in the track. For example, if we have this track playing, and I'd like to see what happens in this breakdown here or this breakdown. Now, with our cue link on, I'm able to use my headphones to preview later on in the track. Great thing about this is the crowd do not hear what's going on within your headphones. They can still hear where the player head is at. But for me personally, I'm able to check out the breakdowns later on in the track and then see what I'm going to mix into it. Alongside that, we've also given you bar structures along the bottom of the waveform. This is great because it allows me to see what the bar structure is progressing later on in the track. While scrolling through the track, I can latch, move away, and now set it. And now my beat counter is now counting down to that marker. This is great for if you're a bit unprepared and you need to remember to press play at a certain point of the track. We've now given you the indication on the screen and your countdown, so you shouldn't miss any drops. Now I'm going to cover some small changes to the CDJ-3000 that I feel is important to know. We've changed the location of two hardware buttons, quantize and slip. This is now located on the left-hand side of the player, making it a lot more easier to see when slip's turned on and when quantize is turned on. We've kept the track filter hardware button. By holding down your track filter, you can see visually this has been improved now, and this is due to our high resolution screen. Our shortcut option now allows us to change the brightness of the LCD and also our jog LCD brightness. I can see when I'm changing the value of my beat jump. I have my quantized value and the stacked waveform option and phase meter on the top left of the screen. This area of the shortcut synchronizes with my other CDJs connected within the Pro DJ link. If I jump onto shortcut on this deck, you can see when I jump to RGB, it also jumps to RGB on this deck also. A really cool feature in this section is waveform current position. So if I jump onto my performance screen, I can now see that the player head is centered in the middle. I can now shift this to the left, allowing me to see a lot more what's going on in front of the track, which is really handy when playing live. Lastly, we have our utility settings. To enter into this menu, we just hold down the menu button, and now we can see our utility settings split up into categories. Previously on the CDJ-3000 Nexus 2, it was a continuous scroll through our settings. Now it's a lot more easier to go to the direct settings that I'd like to change. For example, this final speed adjust. On the 2000 Nexus 2, we had 2 pots. Now we've combined this into one, and I can change this by the DJ settings, and I can have touch and release as it is as one, or I can just have it as being touch or release. If you do want to use our CDJs with a laptop, that is no problem, because the CDJ-3000s are hardware unlocked without performance mode. So you don't need to pay any subscription to unlock the performance. It's been an absolute pleasure to take you through our brand new flagship multiplayer. My name's Sami from Pioneer DJ, and for more information on the CDJ-3000s, contact Leisuretec. Until next time.